Sure that all of that is good. Yes.
Everything. Streaming.
Every single time that we do Facebook Live, I always have to tell them, I'm sorry, it's work in progress. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Lunch and Learn at LAX Coworking. We are here with the fabulous Elliot Kay, who is in town for a short period of time, so we are very honored to have him in our space. Of course, we are your local business resource center, so if you ever need anything, feel free to drop by our office. We have office space, we have open desks, we have free Wi-Fi, we have free coffee, and we have fabulous people. So we are definitely here to help make sure that you succeed, and Elliot is here to make sure that all of us, including those of you out in cyberspace, succeed as well. So thank you, Elliot, for joining us.
Thank you. Great. So I know we've got talking offline a little bit. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'll tell you about the strategy. And then any questions, we're a decent sized group that, you can just ask and I'll happily answer them. Of course, the important thing to remember when we are talking about strategy, and I particularly hear you, there is never right and wrong. There's a lot of let's design, execute, test, and learn. So do keep that in mind, especially depending where you are. Being in marketing, it's all that keyword, let's test it, right? Test. It's the same with strategy. Of course, you want to set yourself up the most to succeed, but the truth is, until you implement, you're not going to learn lessons. And a lot of people, like we were talking about, get stuck in planning, and never executing. And the key philosophy with us is you've got to stop and implement. And that's really what we're about, the system we've devised. So just a little bit about me. On Facebook, it's probably coming on backwards. It doesn't matter. You'll still hear from what I'm saying. This is my company, Managing Director of Strategic Brilliance Services. I'm an international speaker. I'm a best-selling author, that's the book. Will pop up in a minute. Power to Succeed is my third book. We were talking about this. I was also dyslexic. I was going to do a little bit of confidence, but when I spoke to you guys, I've just taken that out because I don't think it's appropriate or relevant for who's here. And I'm also a consultant to a government-backed scheme back in the UK, and I get pulled into businesses that are 100k plus and that are growing fast to help them grow in a scalable, tangible, sustainable way. And I do that a lot. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of the talk, I just want to say three things. I've never met the Queen, right? I don't like tea. I only like herbal tea, right? And I don't drink warm beer. So I just want to get that out there before I get asked any questions. I've never actually met the Queen, although I'm sure she'd like to meet me one day, right? So, yes. And that's really what I do. All I do now is strategy. Previous to that, I'll tell you a little bit about it in a minute. So my book recently became a bestseller, so hey. Yay. And it's here. Funny I brought 3 copies with me, I think there's something there. I have more in my car, just in case there's an influx of people. After all, this is LA, and people can suddenly show up and, queue round the block, right?
You never know.
Clearly my physical appeal isn't on the same levels as Brad Pitt. It's a tough life. What's our mission? Just so you understand, our mission, we want to reach 1 million businesses. I want to work with 1 million businesses to get businesses to be far more strategic, to really work with the lifestyle aspect of the business, to understand when they're building a business, what their big why is, but of course how to implement that. I feel often there's one or the other, not a merge of two. I feel too many entrepreneurs lose their lifestyle while building a business. I feel that's a very old way of doing things. That's an old paradigm. Hi everybody on Facebook. It's an old paradigm. It's unsustainable, and as a lot of us hear time and time again, it does actually kill people. And I want to make a stand against that. There is a different way of doing it. This is my third business that I'm building. So before this, I run a coaching business. I don't coach anymore. I want to be very clear. I'm not a business coach. I'm a strategist, consultant, advisor, speaker. Right? Let's be clear. And that I decided to wind down because I kept meeting entrepreneurs and business owners who were brilliantly, highly skilled, very clever, very ambitious, highly intelligent, yet completely struggling to build a business that's sustainable. They were broke, they were scrambling away, and I was like, do you know what? I think I'm going to serve better by doing the strategy stuff than being a coach, because there's a lot of coaches. LA is full of coaches, right? The UK, there's a lot of coaches, and I felt I'd be better off supporting entrepreneurs and business owners. This business has grown very quickly in the last 2 years. Before that, I was running the coaches business. I was known as the coach with the hat. That was my brand. I run the seminar as well as the book called Power to Succeed. But I also run a public speaking training company, and that's called Speak Express, and that's in the UK. Whether we're launched in the USA, well, I need to discuss that with my business partner, but that will be next year. And having learned what it takes to launch in LA this time round, I think we'll be doing things very differently next time I launch in LA. Well, I'm back next year under this bracket, but if I was to launch again, whole different strategy, I'll tell you. So yeah, I've spoken on some very, very big stages. I've shared the stage with some very big people. Do you know Sharon Lecter? Rich Dad, Poor Dad? You know the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Mm-hmm. So she actually wrote them. Robert Kiyosaki had the idea. She actually wrote them. Amazing woman. But to me, let me tell you what everything is about for me. I can do really big rooms, really small rooms. It really doesn't matter. I can do rooms with amazing people like yourselves. To me, it all comes down to two things. Being a great father to my newborn child and being a great husband.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's 10 months, but she's still new. She's here. They're walking around shopping, of course. What else do you do in LA, right? And the whole reason I'm doing what I'm doing is for those reasons alone. And if there's too many nights that I'm not there to see Ariella, her name is, go to bed, or if any way I'm not having a healthy relationship with my wife, something has to change. And that's really the behind of everything that I do. So while running two businesses, great, having now an international business, if I am not there present for my family, then something's wrong. And that's what really drives behind this. Before she came along, before Ariella came along, yes, it was about having the biggest business, the most income, the most turnover. It was about, hitting the millions and all that. And once Ariella came along, I was like, do you know what, that's pretty irrelevant if I'm not present in her life. And the millionaires and the people I've worked with, when I've asked them what would you do differently, they all have said that they will focus on the lifestyle. And that's what they would do differently. And probably some of your friends, if you ever ask them if they're highly successful, what would you do differently? A lot of them say, I would focus on being present for my family, if they have one, or the lifestyle. And that's really our mission. That goes back to our mission. And so if it's a choice between too many nights of not being home or lots of speaking gigs, I will always say, well, if I'm not there enough nights, then something's different. And if it becomes a must, then I need to change my strategy. So I just want to show you. Today's very broad. It's bird's eye. Obviously, I can only give you an insight. And then we can ask questions and hopefully can go away, take something away for you. I just want to say this also up front. I really don't have anything to sell. I've got my book. I do have an event at the end of the week which goes really deep into strategy. If you're interested, come and ask me. I'm not going to do any pitching. I'll do one slide about it and then that's it. Otherwise, let's just keep in touch, keep the conversation going. I'm here to really serve and be here. And when we wrote to you, that's why we wrote. What will be, right? That's just the way it is. So I told you about my last brand, Coach with a Hat. Let me ask you, why did you start? I think you like that, so we can see it again.
I like the hat.
You like the hat? We got rid of the hat. Do you know why we had to rebrand because of a new company. But we got rid of the hat because we're going to talk a lot about market research today. Because when we did the research, people felt that the hat added no value. So while people remembered me from a marketing point of view, they're like, so what? You wear a hat, big deal. And we were like, okay, when we wanted to penetrate and be taken in the business world, they were like, we had to change that. So lots of people like the hat. They remember the hat. I'm still remembered as the coach with the hat in some places, even though I'm not a coach and I don't wear the hat. But we are bringing back the coach with the hat as our non-for-profit, and that's a different story. That will be our give back.
Well, it's the same thing that a lot of people will remember a funny commercial, but they might not remember what the commercial's selling.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Ideally, you want both.
Yes.
That's the ideal thing, right? So that's the brand that I used to run, and that's what we closed down. But we are bringing back as a non-for-profit, and the way we're going to do it very quickly, so I might as well tell you, and everybody watching on Facebook, is anybody can be the coach with the hat, and what it's going to be is whoever they are, they volunteer the time, and then people who can't afford coaching have access to coaching. And that goes back to the days when I was really broke, bankrupt, etc., and I didn't have money, versus being like, well, deprived, at least we can serve. That's the essence of it. So why did you guys start a business? Tell me. What's the reason? Trick question. It's not. Go on. Why did you start a business?
Okay. Well, I'm starting the business because I know I personally suffered from the problem of forced schooling.
Right.
And also, I've been a teacher since I graduated high school, and I don't have a degree, and I would refuse to even participate in the public school system, and I found out that there was another way, especially in California. There's a lot of freedom when it comes to educating young people, and I knew I couldn't make a decent living, working after school programs or whatever. So it was financial, but also I wanted something that really spoke to me, and I realized when I was asking myself, what am I going to do with my life? I looked back and I said, well, I've been a teacher this whole time, so that's actually my skill. For a while, I wanted to be a rapper.
Cool, a rapping teacher, right?
I can do both. Yes.
This is LA, California. Could be anything you want to be.
Thank you. Yes, I know. I could be maybe a rapping teacher, but just not a rapper by itself. And I was really pursuing the rapping thing, but I realized it wasn't my calling, and it was really ego based. And this is much. I'm enjoying the process much more.
Okay, so we'll come to your reason. It'll come up in a minute, but just very quickly in 1-2 sentences. Why not?
I haven't started a business.
Yeah.
I'm contemplating it.
You're contemplating it. Okay, you won't be here if you want to start a
Exactly.
business. And yourself, you have a job, but you're still
I do. I have a side hustle.
side
Business,
hustle.
yes.
Gary
business
V
consulting.
language.
Right. So I'm a business consultant on the side, and the way that came up with, why did I start? Basically, I felt that I had skills and resources that I could share with others and add significant value to small businesses.
Okay, fabulous. Awesome. So are you still employed right now?
No, recently laid off.
Okay. So you've been given an opportunity to find your path. Excellent. Because a lot of people I know that have been through that, they launch and do their thing. Okay, so we've done some research, and there's 6 key reasons why businesses are set up. One of them, they have a passion. You have a passion for something, but of course passion alone is unsustainable. You can't build a business with passion, and I know that's very much pushed in the personal development world. Just find your passion and pursue it. Yes, it's good, but only get you so far, normally to burnout. We'll talk about that in a minute, because passion alone is unsustainable, but the importance of passion when you build a business, it's true. It's what keeps you going, gets you getting out of bed, but it's unsustainable on its own. The other one is freedom, and for me it's freedom of choice, the freedom to choose how and what we do with ourselves. The third one, of course, is money, right? So if anyone in this room has issues around money, you need to seriously get over it, right? Because if you can't build a business if you've got issues with money, right?
Oh, you can get in there too. Don't worry.
I don't know. Some people
You're
just want the
adding
slides.
value,
Okay, cool. Well, I'm happy to email you these, by the way, the slides, if you want. And also, I'll give you, we have a blueprint which captures a lot of what I'm going to be talking about. You can have that as well. Present gift. And if you want to unsubscribe after that, I'm happy for you to do that. You don't have to stay on my mailing list if you don't want to. Cool. So the other one, of course, is time, the choice of how we spend our time. For me, it's about being there for my wife or my dear daughter, who's very energetic and who's just learned to climb on everything. So it's amazing to see. But I definitely want to be there for her first moments, and that's my thing. But it doesn't have to be about family. We all have a very different value system. We all want different things. If it's about making millions, that's okay too, by the way. I don't refuse to work with people like that. I just want to know, which I'm going to talk about a little bit today, what's behind that. So I don't have an issue that people want the big houses, the cars, and the millions and the billions. I'm not here to judge your why. I just want to understand what's behind that when I work with people. To be of service, that's your one. I can see that that's your calling. You want to be of service to the bad kids, bad in brackets, who are the ones that are they'll mount to nothing, yet given the opportunity, they'll mount to everything, right? So that's your one. And of course, less stress, right? We want less stress when we run a business. Okay, so I normally ask this question, how's that working out for you so far? Because the reality, of course, of running a business is very different, right? And here's the reality that I come across. And I've got a couple of great examples. Hi there. Welcome. He helped me with my tea. Thank you for your help to find my tea. I got great mint tea as a result of your support. What's your name?
Oh, were we out of the green?
Yes.
So sorry.
I know. You got my hopes up?
I know.
I don't know.
Actually, I might have been the one who finished it, so I apologize.
Naughty.
What's
Naughty.
I got it.
What's your name?
Michael,
welcome. So I'll give you an example. A guy came to me in the UK, and he was like an £8 million turnover company, so it's like 10 million US. And he said, I don't understand what you could possibly teach me. And I was like, well, let's sit down and see. Are you open to learning? Like, well, not really, but let's give it a go. You know, like, he's a big guy, muscly. He looked at me and thought, I could crush you. That kind of eye look in his eyes. You know, these people are looking, I could break you. So we sat down and said, look, okay, tell me about your company. He's like, well, you know, he got laid off and he set up the company and they niched into an IT sector that I knew nothing about, which is okay because I don't need to necessarily know the industry. And I was like, great. So tell me about your passion piece. Like, well, we have a passion for IT. Fabulous. And tell me about your freedom. How much freedom do you have? And he went, well, not a lot. And I was like, oh, okay. So wait a minute. You're running a $10 million company, but you have no freedom. Yeah. So, and tell me, your cash flow's good, right? He goes, yeah. And I was like, tell me this. How many times do you get to go home and spend time with your family? Tell me how often. Let's pretend this is a phone because both our phones are occupied. How often can you let go of this and not be waiting for an email or not be looking at the phone to see who's doing what or what's gone wrong? And he went, I can't. And I said, you don't have a business, right? Because you don't have a lifestyle. What you have is a very well-paid job, right? Because the reality, and when I met him, he was like that. He'd lost his passion because he was consumed and he was too busy. And this isn't just him. This is a typical story. And by the way, the turnover is no indicator to this. So this is equally with people with less than 6 figures or people above. So how much money people make, they still end up in this, right? Money, what money? He had a lot of money still. He's like, I don't know where the money goes. I'm like, okay, we need to look at that, right? And no time to be of service, burning out. But the biggest thing is he had no time to spend with family, like none. And I was like, okay, we need to look at the strategies, and this is what we looked at when we looked at the purpose piece. So the three questions I always solve are: how do I get more clients? How do I get more time freedom, which is a biggie, regardless of the size of the business? And how do I make more money? But more money in a way that's sustainable, because you're going to make more money, but you want to keep the money, and you want the money to help to be reinvested in your business so it grows, right? And this is really how we do it. This is our system, and I'll talk you through it today. So we've got the heartbeat piece, the heartbeat piece, and that constitutes 3 parts, and I'm going to go through that in a minute. Then there's the blueprint piece. Blueprint. I can't speak English today.
That's okay.
I think
we're not very good at it either.
I don't know what's happening with my ability to use my lips. Blueprint, that's how you commercialize your business. So that's where the sales and marketing, that's where your productization, that's where the monetization is. And then you've got what we call the game plan, which is the 5 strategies to execute the other 2, right? And most people get stuck on 2 strategies, and I'll go through that in a minute. All right, any questions so far? No, so far so good? Great, you're all still looking at me, you're all smiling, so far so good. So the heartbeat breaks into 3 pieces, right? And a lot of you've heard this, it's probably not new. I'm just going to give you our approach to it. The first thing I always do when I sit with someone is the purpose piece. The purpose piece has 5 key components: passion, impact, services, finances, and lifestyle. Yeah? So that's passion, impact, services, finances, lifestyle. So the passion piece we've discussed. What are you passionate about? Impact. Where are you wanting to create an impact? What's the market space or the area you want to create an impact or leave a dent if you want to play really big? So if you look at Elon Musk, he's always leaving dents. He's disruptive, and his whole ethos is to leave dents in certain industries or in the universe if you want to go really big, right? So, for you, it's very much you want to leave a dent in the education system, or you want to make an impact in the education system. So it's really what's the big picture at play. And then the services are the services. So what are you going to offer to do that? That's one-on-one. You would list those. Then the financial piece is what size company do you want to grow? Or are you working in right now? As I say, I work with established business owners, so where do they want to take it? And then the key thing after that, as we've discussed, is the lifestyle piece. Is what lifestyle is the business supporting, not consuming. That's essential to this part. The values piece for us is what you stand for as a business. And by the way, the purpose piece, when I talk about that, that's the kind of thing you show an investor. Because they want to know why you exist as a business. That's the kind of thing you'd show them. We're not looking at big fluffy language, you know. It's very practical language. I don't have my example here today, but it's only three sentences in each area, so you're not looking like a big, you know, it's not a big thing, right? In that respect. And then there's the values, and the values forms the spine of your recruitment strategy. And that's very much what you stand for as a business. Who are you as a business? So it's things like, what I will say I will do, and I will do on time. My word is my bond, and I will always fulfill it. We are open and transparent with our communication. We accept both positive and negative feedback. All those kind of things, which then you use also to recruit people to create the culture, right? So that's why it's got a real strong strategic value. And vision is vision. I don't need to kind of go into that. But what is important is the vision is aligned to the purpose. I've gone into a few companies and they have one vision that's going one way and the business purpose is completely different. And I'm like, well, how are you going to get there? If I put 2 zip codes into GPS, as you guys call it here, right? GPS? Is that right? You know, you won't get anywhere. Well, are you surprised your business is struggling because you're not sure exactly where you're going and they're not aligned, hence them being in the row. So that's a little bit about the heartbeat piece of the business, which I'm not going to go into a lot today. And I'm going to give you one example of our blueprint approach, which for you as a marketing, you'll be like, oh, I know this stuff. Well, hopefully you'll learn something. But if not, that's cool. Maybe it's good to refresh the good old cogs, as we call them in the UK. Do you have that expression here?
No.
Okay, good. By the way, if you don't understand my English, which often happens, just tell me, what does that mean? Because the other day I was, that example of putting 2 zip codes into GPS, I did the British expression, which is to put 2 postcodes into your sat-nav. And everyone's like, you didn't understand what I just said, didn't they? Like, no. Okay. So that's how I've learned how to adopt it since. So if there's words or sentences that don't make sense, please tell me, right? So that's the heartbeat piece of our strategy. And can you see, then everything's about building what you've done here. That's what's really, really, really important. And I find that the business owners that skip this part at some point come very, very stuck because there's no bigger picture at play, right? And then if it's just about the money, then it becomes really conflicted in my experience. And so now we're on to the blueprint part, and this is one example of commercialization that we talk about. And this is one of the key things we really, really look at. Because a lot of business owners that I find, you know, the gentleman I was talking about, he fell into it. He never really thought about it. And a lot of people I work with, they kind of get to a certain level because they've managed to market their product or their skill set, but they've never stopped to really think about who their ideal client is. If you can start from the word go on who your ideal client is, or you can take a step back to go, okay, who is my ideal client? Then it's a lot easier to grow the business and scale the business, because once you really sit down and work out who your ideal client is, so yours is twofold. You've got the ideal kid to attend and the parent that's willing to fund that all. So you've got twofold. So your marketing messaging has to work for both. What's your business, Michael? Sorry, I know what these guys are doing.
I run a business accelerator.
Fabulous. So this is great for you. If nothing else, it's another tool.
Right.
So you must be harping on at your guys about this stuff.
Yeah. So
We call it-
right now we're doing outbound from the U.S., and the next phase is to bring and attract
People inbound.
startups and rev companies here.
Fabulous. So it's to really, even if you think you know who your ideal client is to truly measure if you're attracting your ideal client. This is where market research is really, really important. This is where sitting down and doing focus groups and things like that is essential, whether you're just a side hustle or you're building, is to really understand what will get your ideal client to buy from you. Because people will tell you how they want to be sold to, how they're willing to buy things. But a lot of businesses skip that. They don't do that. Or they go, I want to do this. But they don't measure if they're attracting them or if their messaging is landing on the right people. And that's where the difference between, you know, businesses that are going to be scalable and going to grow and be sustainable versus businesses that are flash in the pans. Right? I mean, the online space is completely about finding your ideal client. But I do find that a lot of tech startups are so in love with their products as a service providers that they don't actually think about who they want to serve. And if they go and spend thousands, millions, and like, well, who's your ideal client? Well, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. Well, marketing to this is massively expensive. The more targeted, the more you know, but also speaking in their language, in the terms of the avatar, in the terms of the client, right, makes it easier to sell to them. So yes, we use an actual avatar as our example. But, you know, now, of course, there's two folds to whatever you're building. There's solving a pain, or there's providing something that's pleasurable. Whatever it is, you must, at the heart of it, be customer-centric and put your client at the center of everything you do. And that's where you build the brand, the marketing messaging. That's the business is built to serve that avatar on a long-term basis. And I'll give you some examples of how that's worked. So, for example, Paul, and I just want to give you how this works, our strategy works across board. So Paul provides mechanics to meat factories, right? Completely not my ideal client in the sense of what he offers. I know nothing about the meat factory service. But we took him through those 4 steps, which we're going to go through. We're like, okay, who's your ideal client? Although he's business to business, we started to analyze, right? We analyzed everything, who his ideal client was, what was the turnover, what was their budget for him, etc., etc. Through that, he then went and tested it. He did some focus groups. He asked them lots of questions. We analyzed the data. We then realized there's an opportunity there to step in and be preventative. Because people call him when they're missing something. But what if he could provide a service according to their data that would save them money, but if they spent the money up front, they would be saving 3 times that. And that came from the analysis. So, because we asked a question like, you call us when you need us, what would you like to see when you don't need us? And they all kind of came back with preventative measures. We didn't know what that meant. But Paul, being the guy he is, went, oh, I think this is what they mean. So if it costs them £6,000 an hour when their machinery breaks down, if I can prove I can save them that by doing something up front, then we can seriously go in there and pitch a different service. So he did. He went and bought this piece of equipment that scans their equipment and tells them when it's going to break down. He went and spent £30,000 on it, which is about $50,000, depending on the exchange rate, right? And he went into all these companies, went, look, I can tell you when your equipment's going to break down. Are you interested? Sure, but to hire me to do that will cost you £30,000. But it will save you, and he had the numbers. And as a result of that, this is when he picked up the phone. He's like, Elliot, I told you you're going to make me a millionaire, and you have. It's like, that's so good. I really should have kept you on retainer. But hey, and he did. And he's such a down-to-earth, he's from Liverpool. He has that funny accent. And now he's of course still working on the business, but they've hired people in, and he's doing a lot. He just spent a year doing the whole Tony Robbins University, just traveling everywhere. And he's even called me and offered me tickets as thank you. But that all came from asking his clients what they wanted and what they would like to see more of. Yes, it's very easy to get stuck in what we think they want. Let's ask them, right? Then, this is kind of preludes what I was talking about. Then you arrange your offering. Then you organize what it is that they want to sell it to them. If they've told you they want it and then you go back and offer it to them, they're going to more likely to buy it. So everything that we offer right now in our business is all as a result of the research, right? So we only really have 3 products. I have my boardroom, which is kind of a little bit of an example of it. I have what we call the business reboot, and that's got 6 masterclasses, and then I have mentorship. That's it, because all my clientele really want is that. We used to have loads of offering like, no, we don't want that, we don't want that, we don't want that. Because your clientele also evolves, so you need to evolve, right? Then you look at things like return on investment, return on engagement, right? Is everyone aware about return on engagement? Are you guys aware what that means? You are?
Yes.
Good. You are? You guys? You?
Return on engagement?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
So that's things like when you do put campaigns out, marketing campaigns, how engaged are the people when you put those things out? So these days you measure things like shares, likes, comments. Does that lead them into the funnel, which then converts them? For you, it's slightly different, but still, do they download your brochure as a result of that campaign? How engaged are people asking questions? And that's a massive thing. Again, when you're doing online marketing, return on engagement is as important as return on investment. Yes?
While we're clarifying terms, when you say turnover, do you mean profit?
Oh, yes, sorry. My apologies. Someone corrected me last Saturday. When we say turnover, we mean gross profit. Yeah. Because here it means turnover of people and things.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Sorry,
Here
someone
means
corrected.
they're leaving.
Yeah.
It's like the open door.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry. Because, someone corrected me on this on Saturday and I should really change my language. Yeah, so turnover in the UK means money in before costs, right? And so for gross profit, or gross sales profit, you guys go? Gross sales, that's it. No profit. We're not on profit yet.
Revenue.
Revenue, there we go. Got it?
Yes, gross revenue.
Gross revenue,
I
we're
was
there.
like, I swear to God, I know that word. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions from the guys online?
Nothing yet. I've been making comments as you've been talking,
Great.
saying like, "That's a great point, Elliot." Blah blah blah. Yeah. So
Cool. See, return on engagement. Sometimes there's none.
I am engaged.
Yes, you are.
I am paid to engage though, so it's cheating.
It still works. So again, this is someone called Harriet, and she's a nutritionist, and she was struggling to really get people to get the right people. She'd always have all these, consultations, but the people weren't quite right, or they didn't quite have the budget. And then we really looked at her messaging, how she was positioning herself. We looked at her online content. We looked at her talks, because she does a lot of talks. And again, we really looked at who her ideal client was and what did they want from her. And then as a result, we changed the messaging and we changed the offering. And then as a result of that, she became, yes?
That's actually a question that I didn't realize I had, but how is it possible, I mean it must be, to target your messaging to somebody in a specific budget?
Yes.
How exactly would that work?
With a specific budget for your marketing?
Well,
or you mean in terms
how
of
would I
people
target-
spend?
Yeah.
It's a lot to do with the language you use.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to do with your image and your brand positioning. And of course, it's to do with your pricing. That will target people very quickly. That will eliminate them or get them on board. So that's a massive thing to think about. Your landing page or your website will be a huge indicator. And even putting things like, are you at this level?
Yeah.
Is this what you're looking for? Not in
Will
those
help.
terms.
Yeah.
That helps as well. And and she went from like 1 in 5 after doing this work to getting 3 in 5. So she's now at capacity. She's hired a VA. Funny enough, we share a VA. We were discussing about, she's building a team now to free her, and she speaks every week because she get very niched on her target market, and which was women, a certain type of woman, a certain type of earning bracket. Another example is someone I know, a friend of mine called JP De Villiers, and he's a personal trainer. And to begin with, he was doing the normal, $50 an hour personal training, in that space. And then he really did a lot of work on who his ideal client was, and of course, what does he want to charge? So then he's like, right, I only want to work with CEOs who make $250,000, who have these issues. He got very, very targeted, and now he charges £10,000 a client. That's $13,000 a client. And he gets it. Because he got very targeted. He knew their pain. He knew how to solve it. He knew how to position himself. What's that?
I was just saying one of a colleague of ours needs to be here.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. To hear about
Because
JP.
He's a
That is-
personal trainer and wants to scale. So.
Right. Well, his name's JP De Villiers. If you put JP and then how do you spell De Villiers? I have to check on Facebook. But he's a really, really, and he's a great guy, and he now lives in Ireland. He's bought a farm, and he travels the world speaking, and he still does that. But he offers them, so it's not just his personal training. They also get like a photo shoot, a before and after. He's really gone beyond, and that's as a result of really knowing and finding out who his ideal clients are and what they want from him. So Harriet's now, she speaks every week in front of her target market, and she's at capacity and growing and growing and growing, which means now she's going online with her products, because obviously that's evergreen and it can bring in cash flow and it's a lower entry point and people wanted that. Does that make sense? Okay, then we're on to the next part. Doing okay with time here? Good. Is the streamline. Then you streamline and scale. Once you've got all this data, this information, then you can scale your marketing. Then you can start to scale your business. You can scale your productization because you know it's got proven track record. And then that's when you put more money in. A lot of people kind of run their campaigns on hope. I hope it'll take off. I hope Facebook will show it in front of the right people. The sooner I can get off Facebook with my marketing, the better. Do you hear that? Yeah. But yes, they're an interesting fish to deal with. And that's really the blueprint part. I mean, that's one example of how we look at commercializing the business further. So when you're looking for hidden income streams, ask your clients, what do they want? What else do they want? And how do they want it delivered? That's a great way to find more money. You find more money, right? That's a great way of doing it. What do your clients want from you? Especially if you have a loyal following. That's a massive thing. And then, so that's the strategy system in kind of how it looks. And then, of course, the roadmap to being on purpose and building your lifestyle is our 3 components. Hi there.
Hi, I'm early.
Hey, Carl.
You are.
I said I'd be late, but I'll take a seat. I'm Carl.
Sure. Hey, what's your name?
Carl.
Hi, Carl.
It's okay. You can catch what you missed on the Facebook video that will
Okay.
be posted in a bit.
Which he's definitely going to go through and watch. Aren't you, Carl?
Yes,
Brilliant.
sure.
Just very quickly, what's your business? Just so
I have a flood and fire company and a general construction company.
Okay, so 2.
companies, yeah.
Cool. Great. So again, another example is Jackie and these guys, Jackie and Dave, and they came to me. They'd built a property portfolio up, 1.3 million very quickly in 10 months. So they were doing great, you'd think, right? On one angle, because they built a massive property portfolio. On the other angle, they had no time. They were burning out because they had no processes, no systems in place. They didn't think of the 5 key strategies, which we're going to talk about, to really sustain the business, because it's all dependent on them and spreadsheets, and that's unsustainable, right? Also, once we went through the system, the 3 areas that I talked about, but in great depth, which is what I do in my 2-day training, is they now built in strategies in each area of the business that what they do now, they work 6 weeks, and then they take 2-week holidays every 6 weeks. And they go somewhere new and somewhere different every 6 weeks, because they've put strategies in certain places of the business that allows them to do that through the 3 areas that I just talked about. The heartbeat, the blueprint, the game plan. They have the right people in place that allow them to do that, which we'll talk about now. The reason the nails are up there is when Jackie came to me, burnt out, in tears, crying, her biggest issue was that she didn't have time to do her nails. That was her like when she burst into big, massive tears, was like, she told me everything was going on. She went, and I don't have time to do my nails. And then every session she had to come with her nails done, or we wouldn't have the session, right? That's why they're up there. And they're now since married, and they're doing great, and as you heard, and they only do really big projects now, so only do 2 million plus projects. Before they were doing sort of low projects, these £100,000 projects, right? So that's checking down. And you can check them out, tomeshome.com. I can give you the websites of all these people if you want, because people are like, I want to know these are real people. If you want to know they're real people, I can give you the websites of everyone I spoke about. Okay? And this is now onto the game plan, all right? And this is the 5 areas that every business must be looking at all times. Now, of course, priorities change, and you focus on different areas at different times, right? But a lot of businesses get stuck on the first 2. Right? They don't pay enough attention to the other 3. Now for you, Carl, my assumption would be systems essential in your construction as well as your...
Yep.
Yeah, that's a massive aspect of it, right?
And cash flow.
Cash flow, yeah. But a lot of businesses won't be looking at the 5 key areas. So marketing is looking at your marketing strategy and breaking it down. You can go a month to month depending on your business, or quarterly, or even, you can go yearly. Of course, you need your sales strategy. What is your pricing strategy? How are you going to sell to people once they hear about you? We look at things like marketing funnels, sales funnels. Some people don't like that word. Does everyone know what I mean when I say funnels? Do you know? Do you know? You look confused.
Really.
Okay, so it's another word for customer journey, but so maybe I do use the board very quickly.
Go ahead. There are
Okay.
markers on there.
Okay, I can just very quickly demonstrate. So here's an example of marketing funnel, right? So the first thing that needs to happen from a marketing point of view for every business, any business on a consistent basis, and I feel like you're testing me here. She's looking.
A little bit,
Yeah, let's see.
There you go.
Is profile, right? You've got to keep raising the profile of the company. Yeah? So people hear about you, the right people hear about you, and there's different ways of raising your profile, of course. These days and ages, there's different channels, there's different aspects. But the first thing is, if you're not raising the profile of your company, how are people going to hear about you? And this is on a consistent basis,
I'm
right?
writing down what he's doing. Thank you.
So one part of your marketing funnel is profile raising. The next part is called an image match. So whatever people, when they hear and see about you, when they check you out from an image point of view, there's a match there, right? So there's not an image mismatch. When they find you on Facebook, and they find you on YouTube, and they find your website, it's all consistent. How am I doing so far?
I would use different terminology, but same thing.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. We call it this. We can change the terminology later.
At the end, I'm intrigued to find out what the different terminology is.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if anyone's either, right? And that's really important because if people hear about you and find you, but something along the line has an image mismatch, it does something called a cognitive jump in your brain. And your brain starts to go, something's not right here. And they start to be skeptical. Do you know how long you have to hook someone on a website? Do you guys know the time?
3 seconds.
Google say 4, but for you it's 3. I came, I saw, I puked, I left. That's how long you have. I came, I saw, I puked, I left. So that's why the image is so important, right? The next part of this particular funnel is what we call the facts. The fact match. What you say you do, you do. Things like case studies, testimonials, endorsements, things that actually verify that you say you do all this amazing construction work. Where's the proof? Yeah? So that's really important. Once they've gone through that, we have something called the test drive. So in your industry, it's slightly different, Carl.
Yep.
But how do people get a taste and a feel for what you do? So you do these days, the open days, and then they enter your sales funnel from here, which is a whole different. And that's basically how you take them from maybe not paying you to paying you to paying you more to paying you a lot. It depends on the business, of course. Once they've gone through all this, now you want them, of course, that's what converts them to a client. And then, of course, what you want ultimately, once they're your client, is for them to be a raving fan. Because raving fans are your best source of marketing. If people are shouting how brilliant you are, it's a lot easier for people to believe that you're brilliant. Genuinely brilliant. How do I do marketing?
The middle chunk is new to me, but the top and the bottom match what I've heard before.
This middle chunk, this middle bit.
The fact and the test I have.
Oh, okay. Well, see you learn something
I'm
new.
curious about your sales funnel. What's
But that's individual to the business.
okay.
You see, so it really depends what you're offering. So Carl's sales funnel will be slightly different from Rebecca's. Here's Rebecca, right?
Ah.
No one said that name. I was like, did I say the right name?
Like, video interrupted.
You did. Mine did.
No, mine.
Oh,
The
naughty.
Wi-Fi went down for a second. It's on pause. It's all right. It should come back.
And this is where I'm giving all the really important
Yeah.
part. No, I'm kidding.
And then as soon as it comes back, and that's how you make $1 million. So my question for you and for him would be: is